great.
Well, hello everyone, and if you're going to watch us online, welcome. It's great to have you here. And can everyone hear me? Is it? Okay, good, great, wonderful. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Father Ramon Baez. I'm the pastor of Holy Family Catholic Church, and Brothers Encore has been very generous in allowing us to come here about every 2 months and to give a talk on a particular topic of interest. And so you might wonder, why, Father, have you chosen the papal conclave? Are you trying to hint at something? You know, do you want a particular person to suddenly die? No, I have no such wishful thinking at all. But we do have to realize that the Pope is definitely well into his mature years, and I think this last couple of weeks, remember when he was in the hospital, you know, a lot of people thought, oh my goodness, what is going on? And fortunately, he came out very well. He's very healthy, and apparently he's eating better, or so I hear. You know, he's a penchant for pizzas, is what I understand. So, but nevertheless, I just think it's good to know about how a Pope is elected, and whenever, you know, our Lord decides to call our Holy Father, and you know, he is gloriously reigning right now in Rome as it is. It's just nice to know what's going to happen, so that we don't have to ask anybody else. So I wanted to share that with you. I gave this talk. Let's see. It's been now, I think. Well, let's see. Since when the Holy Father was elected was the last time I gave this talk, and I did it in another place just like this, actually, as a matter of fact. And so it was really, it was actually a little bit riveting, because people are wondering what's going to happen. You know, how is the Pope going to be elected? And a lot of the news were available out there. You could hear, you know, a lot of the news channels were covering it because they all wanted to know how Pope is elected. And a lot of people think that it's all about the politics. There is some politics involved, and you probably heard, you know, oh, this group of, you know, bishops, cardinals, they ganged up together and things like that. But you know how human nature is, you know, and no matter what you think, the Holy Spirit is always acting. Now, one very important point that I should mention to you. A lot of people say that, well, you know, the Holy Spirit has already chosen the next Pope and the following Pope and 3 Popes down the road, you know. And Pope Benedict XVI, when he heard this, somebody actually went up to him and said, hey, Holy Father, is it true that the Holy Spirit has chosen this Pope, the following Pope, and the next Pope down the road? And Pope Benedict was very honest. He said, I don't think that's the way it works, you know. I don't think the Holy Spirit actually chooses individuals. I think the Holy Spirit trusts the College of Cardinals to come together and to discern, you know, what the situation is and who the best candidate is. So I kind of tend to agree with him. It might be shocking for you. It's like, well, then how do we know that the Pope is good? Well, we don't know. And you know that there have been popes that have not been all that great. The Medici popes, some of the other popes that lived in the 1200s, several popes are responsible for major schisms in the church. And as I'm about to show you, the way that the papal conclave came about was actually because the decision to make popes was actually quite scandalous. Some of the cardinals did not want to choose a pope, and one time in particular, they were so reticent that the people said, you're not eating until you pick a pope, you know, and like a day later they picked the pope, you know, because, you know, no pope, no cardinal wants to be left without food. That's like the cruelest thing, okay? I mean, they want the spaghetti and the meatballs no matter where they are, okay? So you know that the conclave is actually a process that has matured through the centuries, and you know, they have that saying that the church doesn't think in years or decades, it thinks in centuries, okay? So this process is one that has been tested for many years, and a few popes have actually made some changes, and I'll tell you about that in just a few moments, okay? So I think we're offline. Is that true, Larry?
No, you're still on.
Oh, still on. Okay, right. All right. Hopefully somebody's watching. Okay, so let me give you a brief history of the papal conclave. First of all, what is conclave? What does it mean? Okay, conclave is a combination of 2 words, cum clave, okay. In Latin, that means with key, cum clave. And the reason is because the process is under key, basically under lock and key. You cannot reveal the process of how the Holy Father was elected, okay, and how the votes went, and so it's kept under seal. And then also literally because in the Sistine Chapel where the conclave takes place, they actually lock the cardinals in there, and they cannot get out, okay, until literally a pope is elected. Now, that's not to say that they don't get to go to sleep to the Domus Santa Marta, the house of Saint Martha, where they all there, okay. But when they deliberate, the place is actually locked, okay. So that is why it's called conclave, cum clave. So those of you that want to impress your friends with your Latin, say, I happen to know what conclave means, okay? Cum clave, with key. So there, I know something you don't know, okay? So anyway, so in 1271, okay, the election that ended with the choice of Gregory X of Viterbo had lasted over 2 years and 9 months when the local authorities, weary of the delay, shut up the cardinals with narrow limits and thus hastened the desired election. Imagine not having a pope for 2 years and 9 months. That is, in today's world, that's like a century, right? I mean, in this area of social media and everything. So imagine 2 years and 9 months in order to select the Holy Father. So the previous provisions were called the Constitution Ubi Periculum, okay? And the way that it used to work was when the Holy Father died, the cardinals were with him were to wait for 10 days. Imagine being with the body for 10 days, okay? Now in those days, they didn't have, the nice, air-conditioned funeral homes, and they, so talk about a stink up, right? So anyway, then each with a single servant, lay or cleric, they were to assemble in the palace where the Pope was at his death, or if that were possible, the nearest city not under an interdict, in the bishop's house. All were assembled in one room without partition or hanging and live in common. This room and another retired chamber to which they might grow freely were to be closed so that no one could go in or out unobserved, nor anyone from without speak secretly with any cardinal, okay? So that is how the process began. This small room in a local city that wasn't under interdict, okay? Now remember, in those days, kings ruled. So the poor, cardinals and everything, they didn't have, they were princes of the church, but if a certain city, a state in Italy didn't want you to have the conclave because maybe they might think that you might elect somebody else you don't like, well, you just don't let the cardinals go and do their job. So they had to find a city that was amenable to them, whether it's Padua or Firenze or things like that, okay? So the poor cardinals, needless to say, I think that at the end of the process, they were all very, very, very tired, okay? Now, how were they fed? There was a window, and they would lower the food so that they could eat, okay? So, none of the nice pizza that we're enjoying right now, hot stuff, it's probably just whatever they can grab that can be lowered down. By the time it got there, it was probably cold, but you know what? Better than nothing. So that way, you knew that, hey, the cardinals were saying, look, we got to get out of here because I want to eat some real food. I want to get back to my palazzo and have a good time and enjoy all the food and all that kind of stuff. So for that reason, they used to do that. I'm going to get in front of the camera here. All right. The first conclave lasted only 1 day, and the second only 7 days, okay? So that goes to show you, it worked. To put the cardinals under lock and key dramatically decreased the amount of time that they were there. Because, let's be honest, there wasn't air freshener in those days, right? So it got pretty smelly to have like 10 or 15 cardinals there, and so they're like, I want to get out of here as soon as possible. So they voted, and of course, we know the rest of the story. They picked, hopefully, mostly good popes, okay? Now, so, unfortunately, there was one pope, Pope John the 20th,
who actually suspended the conclave because there was one time, and there was 3 popes were elected in the conclave. Now, obviously in that situation something went awry. So this one pope said, you know what? We're not gonna have the conclave anymore. Okay, so he did away with it, and then there were 18 years between the suspension of the conclave and its resumption in 1294. Okay, and that whole time there were 3 popes going on, so it was a lot of kind of chaotic times and things like that. Fortunately, in 1294, they took 6 to 9 months, and then they restored the papal conclave, and then Celestine V was elected as the sole pope, and then they went back in. However, because it took 2 years and 9 months, so this is another one. Okay, the people said, okay, if you guys don't decide, we're gonna put you on a diet. Okay, of bread and water. Imagine that. And so they learned their lesson very well. Okay, so that's pretty much the ancient history of the papal conclave. In 1562, Pius IV codified the papal conclave in a document called In Elegendis, and then that's where he enforced the enclosure, the cum clave, okay, and which had become kind of observed very carelessly. And then in 1621, Gregory XV published 2 bulls, Aeterni Patris and Dece Romanum Pontificem, in which he actually followed the ceremonies for the papal election, and every single document was actually detailed how everything was supposed to happen. So now let's talk about exactly how the papal conclave functioned, now that we know the history. Okay, first of all, the maximum number of cardinals that you can have at any one time is 120. 120, okay, it's the maximum number that any pope can elect. And any of those individuals can also be under the age of 80, but you can have also retired cardinals, but they are not eligible to vote in the College of Cardinals. So there must be 120 men under the age of 80, which is the official retirement age, and no more. You can have no more cardinals to be in the College of Cardinals. So what that means is that once you retire, you're still a cardinal, but you cannot vote for the next pope. And that's the thing that's also important about being a cardinal while you're still young, okay? Because you can vote for the cardinal, and that's like the highest privilege. You're also eligible, okay, to become a cardinal, to become a pope, okay? So that word you probably heard is papabile, okay? Now there's different levels of papabile. Some popes are, not considered to be, as a word, part of the thoroughbreds. But within the whole College of Cardinals, there could be like 10 or maybe more individuals who are considered to be eligible because they have the right skills. They have the right, they come from the right places in the world, they speak the right number of languages, or their mind is incredible. So there's a lot of qualifications. I mean, let me tell you, these individuals are really, some of the most intelligent people that you know, okay? There are no dummies who are cardinals, okay? They are pretty bright people, okay? May them speak at least 4, 5, 6 languages. And I had just as an aside, I had the pleasure and the honor of meeting the Cardinal of Tegucigalpa, Cardinal Madariaga, okay? Regardless of what you might have heard about him and any scandal, let me tell you, he is a man of great holiness. And I had the privilege to serve during his masses several times. This man flew planes, He spoke at least 10 languages, and he was one of the humblest people you could meet. Okay, well versed, has several foundations. So, and he was one of the papabiles in the last couple of conclaves. Of course, now he's kind of aged out. And so this is what happens. As soon as the Holy Father dies, may he rest in peace, Lord bless him, okay? The Cardinal Camerlengo, okay, that is the person who's like the part of the papal household whose responsibility is to verify whether the Pope has died. And the way that this is done is he calls out the Pope's name 3 times, and he must not hear a response. So you can imagine it'd be something like, Francis. Oh, Francis. Francis? Okay, he's dead. Il morto. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, so he must then authorize a death certificate and make the event public by notifying the Cardinal Vicar of the Diocese of Rome. The Camerlengo then seals the Pope's private apartments at that moment. Now, this is interesting because where does the Holy Father live right now? Anybody know? Does he live in the papal apartments? No. He lives in the Domus Santa Marta, the house of Saint Martha. So this is very interesting. The actual papal palace has been closed for years now, okay? So what will happen is anybody's guess, because they can't just seal the Domus Santa Marta. Why? And that's where the cardinals are going to live the entire time, okay? So they can't just seal those things. So they'll probably just seal his own room, you know, so that nobody can come in and commit any kind of crime or anything like that. And then he would also arrange for the ring of the fisherman. As you probably have seen, the Holy Father has a beautiful ring with the fish on it, okay? So they take it away right away, and the papal seal to be broken. So the official papal seal, snap, okay, no longer used because that Pope is passed on, and so you know, the Pope is dead. Long live the Pope. Then he makes preparations for the papal funeral rites and the novendieles, the 9 days of mourning. So it's a required 9 days of mourning. So before anything happens for election, there has to be 9 days of official mourning in the Vatican. Now, this time is called the interregnum. During the interregnum, the Camerlengo, who is responsible for the government of the church, he must arrange the funeral and burial of the Pope. He directs the election of a new Pope, assisted by 3 cardinals, elected by the Council of Cardinals, with 3 replacement cardinals elected every 3 days. Okay, so he has a lot of responsibilities, and he needs a lot of help because it's not easy. Okay. Every head of the dicastery of the Roman Curia, that's all the departments in the Vatican City, are suspended from exercising any authority. They cannot make any major decisions because we are in the interregnum, in between the reigns. So nobody can sign any important documents or decrees or publish any kind of ministerial documents until the new Holy Father is elected. So let's say that there was something that was about to be released, you know, a major encyclical or apostolic letter or anything like that, okay? Guess what? That's not happening. So they put that thing away. Maybe later they'll release it by the new Pope and on a different name or something like that, but then they can no longer do that, okay? Now, once the interregnum is over, they have what's called the general congregations, and that is when the titular churches, which are the different churches that are the major churches in Rome. Okay, so there are, I forget how many titular churches there are. There's a lot. Okay, not the major basilicas, but the titular churches. Okay, they begin to have these homilies. They're basically homilies, and they began to see and say, this is what's going on in the world right now. This is what the concerns are. And they picked some of the best minds of the church in order to speak to the cardinals, okay, about the church. Now remember, during the interregnum, all the cardinals have to come to Rome. And you know how busy cardinals are. So they have to drop everything at the drop of a hat get on a plane, okay? Now, these are people in their 80s, you can't move too fast, right? So they have to take their time, and, they have to, make sure everything's good to go, because they might not come back to their diocese, okay? That's what happened to Pope Francis, remember? He left Buenos Aires to never return yet. He has not returned to Buenos Aires since he left. That's amazing, So, I mean, that favorite DVD that he had, it was there for a while before somebody was like pick it up and bring it over to Rome so he could watch it, okay? Any kind of, photos or anything like that, all that remained over there for quite a long time. Now, once the general congregations are over, then the cardinals are ready to go into the conclave. So this is what happens. The cardinals must take an oath when they first enter the conclave that they will follow the rules set down by the Pope, and that they will maintain absolute secrecy about the voting and deliberation. So before this happens, okay, the Camerlengo and his staff will sit down and they will read all the rules, okay? What they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to say, okay? The Swiss Guard will sweep the Sistine Chapel, okay? Make sure there's no hearing devices, make sure the whole place is secure. They check all the cardinals, no cell phone, no Facebook, no TikTok, no nothing, okay? Nothing, okay? They are not allowed to bring anything in there that could be construed as an attempt to sway or dissuade or anything like that, okay? Now, once that has all been explained, then, by the way, what do you think the penalty is for disclosing anything about the conclave without any authorization? Want to guess? Yeah. Excommunication. Automatic lete sentencia, okay? They are automatically excommunicated for revealing any information about the papal conclave. So they are not allowed to say nothing, okay? All right, now, so once the doors are closed, they're locked, and then the process begins. And then they begin to get really nervous, okay? Because any one of them could come out being the Bishop of Rome and the Holy Father. And oh my word, let me tell you, that is not easy. I always laugh because when I ask the kids in school, well, what do you want to do? Would you like to be a priest? They're like, no, I want to be a pope. It's like, no, you don't want to be a priest? No, I want to be a pope. Come on, give me a break. I want to just shortcut straight to the pope. I think to myself, God love these people because these individuals are going to carry the literal, the spiritual, and almost the physical weight of the shoulder of the world. Ever notice how Holy Father, after many years, their shoulders just droop, their backs get hunched, and they seem to shrink, okay? I don't think that's just because of their physical body. I think it's literally they carry the weight of the world on the back of their shoulders, okay? So that's why it's so important, no matter how you feel about any pope, pray for these men, because it is not easy. Okay, now, so what happens is, and you can, after the talk, you can come here. I found this. This is when Pope Francis was elected. The Washington Post, of all papers, had a beautiful explanation on the College of Cardinals with like nice little diagrams and everything. You can come take a look in here, and what I'm just saying, you can just read that and explain to you. So this is during the Pope Francis election. So things have changed drastically in the numbers of people that were from each continent. Okay, as you know, Pope Francis has done something amazing. He's chosen cardinals from parts of the world where there were never cardinals. Okay, Oceania, that's like Australia, Vanuatu, Fiji, places like that, the Middle East. So this should be a very exciting, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, okay? Please do not say that I'm telling the Pope, okay? But what I am saying is that it's going to be very interesting because these cardinals are coming from parts of the world where we in our, Western-centric mind, they see the church and religion in a very, very different way, okay? So it should be very interesting to see how it goes. Okay, so they close the doors, and then each one sits on these like pews on either side of the Sistine Chapel. Imagine you're sitting there and you're looking up and you see Michelangelo's great Last Judgment, you know, with all the like bodies flayed alive and all these people like burning in hell, and you're like, oh my God, this is like the real thing, okay? Like, I better just go ahead and like be serious about this, you know, because they see this beautiful frescoes with the creation, scripture. You know, if any of you had the privilege of being there, you know what an awesome place that is. And here they are electing the new Bishop of Rome, and you know, it can be a terrifying, terrible, awesome experience. Now, what happens is that I'll talk about the process itself. Okay, the cardinals all sit around the wall of the Sistine Chapel, and then they take a ballot paper on which it is written, "Eligo in summum pontificem," which means I elect as supreme pontiff. Okay. Then what they do is they write, okay, the name of the cardinal that they elect, okay, that they want, okay, and then each one of them proceeds to the front of the Sistine Chapel, and then there's a chalice with a patent on it, okay. They hold up their ballot high to show they have voted. They fold the sheet and they place it on the patent, and then they slide it into the chalice, okay. Now, you'll see, it's kind of an interesting thing. The ballot box, you'll see it there. It looks like the top of the R2-D2 head, you know? So, but they basically hold it up, and they dip it in there, and it goes into the big old chalice, okay? The votes are then counted very slowly by the Cardinal Camerlengo and his 3 assistants. Each assistant reads the name aloud, writes it down on a tally sheet, and then passes it to the next assistant. The 3rd assistant runs a needle and thread through the center of each ballot to join all of them together. The ballots are then burned, and there's a little stovepipe you can see there at the corner of the Sistine Chapel, okay, as well as any notes that were made. If a new pope has been elected, the papers are burned with chemicals, okay, to give it white smoke. So you know how you see the colors or whatever, okay? The white smoke is a chemical that they use to wet the paper, and that's how you know, okay? Otherwise, they give up black smoke, and you know when the black smoke's there, you know, oh, no Holy Father, you know, has been elected. And then also, just as an aside, since 2005, it was announced that in addition to the white smoke, the bells of the Basilica will be rung to signal the election of a new Pope, okay? Because I guess sometimes people look up and they can't tell if the Pope if the smoke is black or white, so they're kind of confused, you know? So that's why I think they did that. All right, let me just go about the number of votes, just so we're clear about that. Hold on. Okay, to be elected the Holy Father, you must receive at least 2/3 of the votes. Except that with Pope John Paul II, if a certain number of ballots have taken place without any cardinal being elected Pope, then the cardinals may then elect by a simple majority. And you know this happens, right? I mean, you know, they go and like usually for the 2 or 3 different like first ballots, nobody gets elected because sometimes there isn't a clear consensus, okay? Now, if I remember correctly, you might know, I think was it 3 votes before Pope Francis was elected? I think it was 3. Yeah, I think it was 3. It was at least 3, okay? Pope Benedict, I think, might have been 4, okay? So it takes a while, you know? And in the meantime, every time they vote, then they have to take a rest, you know? Because, you know, it's Italy, right? They take a siesta for everything, so they vote, you know, and they're like, I'm going to go home and sleep right now, you know? And they wake up, oh, okay, it's time to vote, so they come out. So sometimes we won't know for like weeks what's going on, or at least days. What's really going on more than anything else is probably the cardinals are talking with each other, right? They're kind of figure out, what is going on, and trying to reach a consensus. They listen. They hopefully they pray, and they're trying to decide what's going on. Now it says here. It has often been the case that a particular candidate has had a solid majority but cannot garner the required 2/3 majority. Because, therefore, a compromise candidate is chosen, either an old pope who will die soon and not do much until the next conclave, okay, or someone not so hardline with support. Now, the last time they did this, okay, they elected John the 23rd. And if you were in my mass this weekend, I told you that John the 23rd was old. He knew he was old, okay? And he was made pope as a kind of holdover pope. And then next thing he said, like a bolt of lightning, I fall and I invoke a second Catechism Council. So, ojo, okay? Okio, be careful, what you wish for. Because sometimes some of those guys, they're the ones that really want to shake up the church. And boy, did Pope the 23rd shake up the church, let me tell you. Okay. All right. After such a long papacy, like for example, we have with John Paul II, St. John Paul II, or Pope Francis, they may need to arrive at a strong consensus on what type of the papacy the church now needs. Okay? And so, they're really, to be honest with you, they're in no particular hurry in order to elect the Pope because they want to let the process go, because they are. And with the many complex problems that are going on, not just outside of the church, but within the church, they want to pick a candidate who will not just be, supremely intelligent, but is also somebody who, presents a good face, right? I mean, they also care about, how, the appearances. Now, I know that's shocking to you, but unfortunately, in this day of social media, cardinals are also likely to kind of fall into this thing about, appearances. So that's what we really have to hope and pray that they are very good about that, okay? The cardinals vote on the afternoon of the first day, then twice each morning and twice each afternoon. So I was exaggerating. They really don't go to sleep after each vote, okay? They vote twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. If they have not elected someone within the first 3 votes, they may devote up to a day of prayer and discussion before resuming. They may do this the same every 7 unsuccessful votes after that, okay? Now, now what about how do their lives continue? I mean, what about their diocese? Well, let me tell you. They're not permitted any contact with the outside world. I already said, no mobile phones, no newspapers, no television, no nothing, okay? They check every single room where they are for listening devices, okay? They can't walk around the Domus Sancta Marta to the Sistine Chapel, and, if anybody who's a staff in Rome happens to run into a cardinal, they can't say, "Oh, Cardinal, how are you?" They're prohibited from talking to any cardinal whatsoever, okay? They are supposed to stay away. So, okay. Now, what happens when we have a pope? Habemus papam, right? We all know that phrase, habemus papam. Habemus papam, okay? Once a cardinal has received the required number of votes, the dean of the College of Cardinals asks him if he accepts election. Okay? So they go up and they say to him, "Do you accept?" Now, there's a rumor, and it'll never be proven, okay, that at the conclave in which Pope Benedict XVI was elected, that Bergoglio, okay, Jorge Bergoglio, otherwise known as Pope Francis, was actually in the run to become Pope, and that he turned it down. But we'll never know that, We'll never know what the truth is, okay? So anyway, on giving assent, the cardinal immediately becomes Pontifex Maximum, the Holy Roman Pontiff, okay? And at that moment, all the cardinals all bow to the Holy Father, okay? all of them all get off their seats, and they bow before the Holy in recognition that he is now the Pope. He's now the Pope officially. Once he accepts, there is no going back. He's the Pope. Okay, I mean, unless he dies on the way out to the window or something like that. Okay, never forbid that should happen. Okay, all right. On the unlikely event that the cardinal chosen is not yet a bishop, that could happen. We have cardinals who are not bishops, okay, who are eligible to become pope. Now, this has not happened in centuries, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? I mean, these days, there's just no way that could happen, okay? But there have been a couple times in which popes were made that were not even the conclave. They were like somewhere else, you know? And said, get that guy over here right now. He's a pope. He doesn't even know it yet, you know? So, but that doesn't happen anymore, okay? If it happens that the cardinal chosen is not yet a bishop, the most senior cardinal present, the dean or the sub-dean, immediately performs the ceremony to consecrate the new pope as a bishop. Why? Because the pope has to be a bishop, the bishop of Rome. Then the cardinals pledge their obedience to His Holiness. Okay, so they all line up and they swear their obedience to him, one after the other, and then they go to what's called the crime room. You know why? Because when they go to it's the vesting where they put the pontifical clericals, you know, with the white cassock and the skull cap. Okay, they say that there a lot of the bishops just like break down and start crying because they like realize, oh my word, this is about to change big time. Okay, so and then they find the right papal vestments. Hopefully they have something that fits him well, you know, and they have different sizes, you know. Petite, you know, small, large, really large, and then ginormous. Okay, so you never know. Pope John the 23rd was actually kind of a big guy, you know. And then what happens is that the proto-deacon of the College of Cardinals steps onto the main balcony and he says, "Habemus Papam." We have a pope. And then you tell him the name of the pope, and then the name that he's decided to take. Okay, and then all of a sudden he comes out to the loving masses and hordes of people outside and all the entire world, you know, and everybody rejoices and they're screaming, you know, cats and dogs living together, all that beautiful stuff that happens, right? And then the first thing he does is he gives a very small kind of few words, and then he gives his apostolic blessing, the first one as the Pope now, okay? So, and then once that happens, well, all the cardinals all go back home, you know, to wait for the next time, maybe when they become pope, or they just go home and you know, they continue on with their lives. Okay. I want to talk about one interesting thing: the prophecy of Malachi. Have you heard of it? Okay, because I know that for a while this is like a big deal. Okay, there was not Malachi from the Bible. Okay, but there was an individual that was called Saint Malachi, and he, let's see here. Okay. Malachi in 1139 went to Rome to give an account of the affairs of his diocese to his Pope Innocent II, who promised him 2 palliums. Okay. While at Rome, he received a strange vision of the future, wherein he was unfolded in his mind the long list of illustrious pontiffs who were to rule until the end of time. So apparently Malachi has this vision where he saw all the popes lined up. Okay. Saint Malachi gave a manuscript to Innocent II to console him in the midst of his tribulations, and that document remained unknown to Roman archives until its discovery in 1590. They were first published by Arnold de Wion. Okay. Anyway, why is this important? It's not important, but I just want to let you know. He says that the last pope before the end of the world is going to be called Peter. Okay? So the last pope is going to call himself Petrus. Okay? So everyone, okay, if that happens, run for your lives, okay? Get a shelter, you know, get a nice place, because things might get pretty nasty, all right? So, anyway, I just wanted to, that's just joking, you know, I don't think that's true, you know, but if it happens, you know, If the next pope calls himself Peter, then you know, like, okay, the gig is up, guys. Let's get serious, do holy things, you know, stay busy, because the Lord is coming. Go to confession a lot, like multiple times, okay, and be good, okay. So it could happen, you know, never know. So anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell what my little talk was on the papal conclave, and I of course didn't go into more detail, but I think I gave enough information. Any questions? Yes. If what happens if the Pope is called Peter, we'll have to do what?
He won't be able to get out.
Oh yeah. If that happens, yeah, I don't think I'll ever get out of the confessional. That's for sure. I'll be there for a long time. Okay. Oh, I could try. I don't know if you can do it except in wartime or danger of death. You know. No, it could happen that, you know, at that moment, you know, all heck breaks loose. We'll see what happens. Any other questions about the papal conclave? Okay, so now you can impress your friends and your families, all right? And you can take a photo of this, or you can look it up. It's from the Pope Benedict's Pope Francis election, and you can get a really nice like a detail on how things work. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you. So I haven't talked to Tara to find out when the next talk it'll be, but I presume that it'll be sometime in early November. Okay, it'll definitely be after the 40 hours. Let me just put a plug in while I'm here. Don't forget that our holy hour, our 40 hours are starting on Halloween night, October the 31st. We'll have Psalm Vespers. I've asked the priest to come. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet because I haven't really gotten a response, but he'll come speak. We'll open 40 hours of devotion, in which we'll have Eucharistic adoration from Sunday night, the 31st, all day Monday, and then into Tuesday to close it right before the Mass of Remembrance, the bilingual Mass on Tuesday, the Feast of All Souls. Okay, we'll close the 40 hours, and we have already set up a sign-up Genius, so you can go online now and sign up for the best hours. Okay, so now, you know, I expect you guys to do some real penance, right? So at least an hour, okay? And pick some tough hours. So don't go for like the easy stuff, right? Because if you don't go for the tough hours, nobody will. So, you know, the church will be open. We'll have snacks. We'll have coffee. We'll have a Keurig machine. And we'll make sure that everything's safe. So I hope that you will be able to do it. So sometime after that, possibly the following week, we'll have the next continuing of the speaker series. So thank you. If anyone was online, I hope you enjoyed the talk, and have a good night, everyone. God bless you. Thank you.
I need you to. I hit a button and he just needs to.